Hi everyone, welcome back. This is Chelsea, and today I'm going to be showing you how to do the small square pattern that we practice in our occupational specific essential skills class for sewing machine operation. So this pattern is actually very similar to the big squares pattern that I would have shown you in a different video. So if you haven't watched that one yet, I highly encourage you to do so. And also check out any of the other pattern practice videos that we have up here on this channel, because practicing these drawn patterns before we sew them is a really great way to familiarize yourself with the patterns. It'll allow you to try the measurements out using a ruler before you go to sew them. And it's also a really great way to practice your hand-eye coordination and your hand steadiness as well. So I really encourage you to check out all of the videos that we have available. Okay, so for today's pattern, you're going to need a few materials. Firstly, you're going to need a pencil. Now, just like in other videos, I'm using a pen so that it's easier for you to see on screen, but you can definitely use a pencil as well as an eraser. That way, if you make any mistakes as you go, you can clean them up. You'll also need a ruler. I'm using one that just looks like this. You'll need some scissors, and I'll show you what that's for in a second. And you're going to need some paper. Now you can see on this pattern here, just like the big squares pattern, we're using a square piece of paper to guide us today. Now if you don't already have a piece of paper that is a square, that's completely okay. We can fold a rectangular piece of paper into a square instead. And that's where our scissors come in. So I usually use 8.5 by 11 inch printer paper, and so that's what I'm going to be using today as well. So to fold this and cut it into a square, what we're going to do is we're going to take one corner of our paper like this, and we're going to fold our paper at a diagonal so that this shorter side here is lined up with the longer edge. So I'm going to do that right now, folding it over, just like this, lining up those edges together. And your diagonal crease that you're making should be going right directly from the point over here, right straight across like this. And you should have a straight, thin, rectangular piece over here as you do that. It's really important for these square patterns that you get them perfectly square because it's going to help guide your pattern later on when you are drawing it. So then you just fold that down just like that. And now you have this leftover piece right here. So then that's what we're going to use the scissors for. I would just cut this piece right off, right along this edge right here. And then that way you are left with a square. So I'll get my square piece of paper now. And so yours should look something like this when you're all done. Okay, so there's a few extra steps involved in this pattern because similar to the zigzag pattern video, which we also have up on this channel, you are going to be making border lines. And now you might know that anytime we make border lines, we are going to be using our ruler. And the reason for that is because anytime we sew a pattern with borders, we have to make sure that the borders are perfectly straight. Otherwise, our pattern is going to be crooked as well. So in order to do that, firstly, I'm going to take a red pen to draw my borders. You don't have to use another color for your borders. You can continue using your pencil. I'm just going to use a red pen so that it sticks out from the black pen that I use whenever I make freehand lines. Okay, so to make our borders, we are going to fold our paper because when we're all done, we're going to want 16 square sections, just like I have on this example here. And so you can see that I've made the border lines in the red. So firstly, what you're going to do is you're going to take your paper and fold it in half. And again, you're going to really carefully line up those edges so that you're making as nice of a square as you possibly can. There we go. And then you're going to open it up, and along where you just made that fold, you're going to put your ruler, and then you're going to, there we go, you're going to draw the line down. Okay, so I'm going to do that right now with mine. Right from the top to the bottom. There we go, just like that. Then you're going to do the same going the other way. So I'm just going to flip it, and I'm going to fold it in half again this way. So fold my paper, make that crease, open it back up, and then use my ruler to draw the line down the middle. Okay, there we go. So now you should have a big plus sign on your paper. So for the next parts, what you're going to do is you're going to take the edge of your paper here, and you're going to fold it into the middle line. So I'm going to take my edge, fold it, just so that it meets the middle here. And I'm going to make a crease. Like that, and then I'm going to do the same on the other side. So I'm going to take this side now and fold it in just the same. There we go. Open them back up, and then I'm going to take my ruler and draw the border line. There we go. Okay, perfect. So now I have 8 sections here, and they're rectangles. So now I need to turn my paper, and I'm going to do the same thing that I just did for the last step, going the other way now. So I'm going to take the edge of my paper, fold it into the middle, and you can do that for both sides. There we go. And then opening it back up and drawing those border lines again. All right, there we go. So now your square paper should be sectioned off into 16 equal sections. And now we're going to make our small squares inside each of these sections. So I'm going to switch my pen over, and I'm going to be using my black pen now because all of the lines that I'm going to be making from now on are going to be freehand. Alright, so when we would sew this type of pattern on a sewing machine, just like all of our other patterns, we like to start on the right side of our fabric and then move to the left. So we're going to be doing the same when we practice drawing this pattern. So I'm going to start in the top right section here. Then I would go to the section right beside it, then this one, and then this one. Then I'm going to go down and to the right again, do this one, then the one beside it, then that one, and then that one, and then so on until you fill the grid. Okay, so next up, I'm going to start using my ruler because we do need to take some measurements for this pattern. And like most of our other patterns, we are going to be using the 1/4 inch measurement for this one. So you've probably already seen in some other videos if you've checked out the other pattern practice videos. But to find a 1/4 inch, you're going to start with the first notch here, which is 0, and then you're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and so just at this 4th notch right here, that is where our measurement is going to be. Okay, so you'll notice some similarities then with the big square pattern, because just like that pattern, this one's going to be the same but on a smaller scale. The difference here is that unlike the diagonal pattern that we made with our back stitches on the big squares, for the small squares we really just try to find about halfway down and then work our way in. The other difference is that we only make 3 squares per section. So see here, I started 1, 2, 3, and then I moved on to the next one. 1, 2, 3. So those small details are really important to remember. If you get any specific instructions like that on the job, it'll be really important for you to stick to the exact numbers that you're given. So really try to make sure that you only make 3 squares per section, and that your back stitches are starting around the middle and working their way into the center square. Okay, so I'm going to take my 1/4 inch mark here, this notch right here, and I'm going to find about halfway down from the top of the paper to this first border line that I made. Okay, and then once I've found where about the halfway point is, I'm going to make my mark a 1/4 inch in from the right side. There we go. So that's going to be my starting point. I can even make that a little bit darker and make it my back stitch. And from there, I'm then going to measure 1/4 inch up from the bottom. And so remember, now the bottom is the border line that we made, not the bottom of the paper. The bottom right here of this section. Measure 1/4 inch up, make a little dot, and now just to be sure that it's the correct distance from the side, I'm also going to take my ruler and measure in 1/4 inch from the side here as well. And yep, looks like I was able to estimate that fairly accurately. So from there, I'm going to put my ruler off to the side for now, and I'm going to make as straight of a line as I can to connect these dots. Just straight down like that, parallel with the edge of the paper. Okay, there we go. So now we've got our pattern started. Now, as we know, the sewing machine doesn't sew side to side, and so we can't draw our line to the side like this. We're going to have to turn our paper. So let's rotate it counterclockwise. The last line that we drew should always be at the top of our paper when we rotate it. And now I'm going to measure 1/4 inch from the new bottom of the square, which is right here. So I'm going to take my ruler, line up this border line here with the 1/4 inch mark, measure up 1/4 inch, make myself a little dot, and then measure 1/4 inch in from the side as well. There we go. Now I have an accurate mark, and so again I'm going to go right from where I left off here, because remember, as you sewed, your sewing needle is in the fabric right here, and you pivoted your fabric around it. So now it's going to continue sewing down, and it's going to sew down to this mark here. When you're on your sewing machine though, of course you're not using your ruler, you're really just trying to develop those good hand-eye coordination skills. Okay, there we go, just like that. And so then again, I'm going to repeat those steps. I'm going to rotate it counterclockwise. Okay, I'm going to take my ruler, measure up 1/4 inch from the bottom of this section, and measure in from the side 1/4 inch. And then connect the lines down. There we go. Now I'm going to rotate it. Same thing again. Measuring up that 1/4 inch, in 1/4 inch from the side, always from the right side, and then connect it. There we go. Okay, so now I'm almost back at the beginning here. Now, the one thing that I have to remember here is the reason why we didn't start our back stitch right in this corner here. And the reason for that is when we sew this way, we're going to have a really nice overlap with this line that's going in the same direction. Whereas if we would have started sewing right in the corner, our first line would be going straight down like this, but then our last line would actually be going in like the opposite way, a perpendicular way, and so it would cross like this, and it wouldn't be able to meet up as nicely as it will with us going this way. So that's why we started in the middle. So now I'm just going to connect the line down and make a nice overlap like that, and then I can backstitch over the original backstitch. There we go. So then that's our first square. Now we're going to make 2 more inside. So again, taking my ruler. Now I'm going to be using the first square that I made as my guide, and I'm going to line up my 1/4 inch line with the right side of that square, measuring 1/4 inch in, and making that backstitch pretty much right beside where I made the first one. Alright, so now again I'm going to measure 1/4 inch up from the bottom, which is now inside this square, and 1/4 inch in from the side as well. There we go. And now drawing my line down. Okay, rotating, measure 1/4 inch up from the bottom, 1/4 inch in from the side. Oh, and I need to push my mark over just a little bit here. There we go, just like that. And then carefully drawing my line down. Okay, rotate. Measure up, 1/4 inch, measure in, 1/4 inch, and connect the line down. All right. One more set of measurements for this square, and then we can move on to our third one. Go, and then once again I am just connecting the line straight down to my starting point. Alright, there we go. So then that's square number 2. Now let's finally put in square number 3. So now of course this square is going to be right on the inside of that last square that we made. So I'm just going to be repeating the process. Lining up the 1/4 inch mark, making a mark where I'm going to start at the same height as the other back stitches, measuring up a 1/4 inch from the last square, and in a 1/4 inch as well. There we go. So this one's teeny tiny, but I still have to be careful to make that nice straight line. Okay, rotating counterclockwise. Measure up and in from the right. And then drawing my line. Rotate, measure, and draw. Rotate, and measuring one more time. And then drawing one more time. You rotate and then finally connecting that line down. Oh, there we go. Okay, so now we have one full set of squares. We have 3 squares altogether. And you should notice that by the time you get to the 3rd square in here, it should still look square. All right, so you're really aiming for a square. If it's starting to look very rectangular, that means that some of your measurements might be a little bit off, or maybe some of your lines might not be straight enough, and so they might be pushing it to one side or the other. So really just check for quality as you go. You want to make sure that all of your squares are still looking square by the time you're done. And you also want to make sure that all of your sections are looking fairly similar. All right, so you don't want to have any sections with very large squares and then some with very teeny tiny squares. They should look all fairly similar and symmetrical. All right, so I hope that tutorial was helpful. Again, please check out any of the other pattern practice videos that we have, and feel free to comment down below if you have any questions. I'll make sure to get back to you as soon as I can. All right, have a great day, everyone. Bye.